What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Inner Alchemist TV. In today's video, we are going to be doing a tarot reading on Martell Holt of Love and Marriage Huntsville. So before we get started, please like this video. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and also that you have your notification bells on. Listen, let's jump right in. I don't know why, but lately I just haven't been wanting to do all the extra fluff talking that I normally love to do. Except to say that I think that this spread is bright and beautifully colored. So I think that there's going to be a lot of information here. Fun fact, this entire table is filled with roses and flowers and candles and ambiance. But when I went to set up the tripod, it didn't capture any of the background that I created when people were telling me like, hey, we want to see the cards, we want to see the table. So I was like, I had to choose, like, do I focus on the ambiance or do I focus on the cards? So that's how you guys got the cards, but it just looks kind of bland. And I'm not really like a bland person. I have a lot of, feminine things around here, but in any event, I think it looks beautiful today. It just looks illuminated and bright, and I think it's pretty. All the colors, all of the activity. Listen, we're gonna get into it. So the overall energy for the spread is the Fool card in reverse. I don't know if you guys can see it that well. There's a bunch of cards that aren't even in the frame, but they're mainly clarifying cards, so you don't necessarily have to see them anyways. But the Fool card is here in reverse. So, I mean, listen, I haven't read Martell in so long, but this Fool card is still showing this inherent childishness or this refusal to just grow up. There is something about him that does not want to grow up. And again, I think that from just looking at his spreads over time, I've always thought it has something to do with a basic codependency that Martell has. And there's something about him that's afraid to be independent. And he wants to be linked to somebody in any capacity. This Fool card is giving me like the idea of somebody that likes to even like play practical jokes on people to irritate them. And what happens is he ends up going way too far or way too out of context and burning his bridges with people around him who are actually growing up and actually looking to like do better and excel in life. And he tends to put together these little, annoyances to try to keep people kind of like close to him. And like I said, it's really given like court jester or fool, because in his mind, he's just joking. Like he thinks that everything is a joke card with the Fool card in reverse. This is saying that he regrets that. He regrets taking things as far as he did. Even though the Fool card, it kind of denotes the need to grow up and kind of digest your adult responsibilities in a real way. Even though he's refusing to heed that kind of like calling from his soul, I don't know whatever you're going to call it, he still in a pit of his soul regrets how he conducts himself, but it's almost like he can't help himself. He just cannot help himself. I think a lot of it has to do with trust issues, and him really kind of trying to protect himself from being seen as a foolish person, even though there's really kind of no other way to explain things. I feel like he has always had this concern over what the future will bring. And there's fear there. He also feels abandoned by God. And again, I think that has to do with regret. Sometimes when people are not used to taking accountability, right? Because regret to me is a form of accountability. But what they'll do is they'll say, you abandoned me, you gave up on me, you left me, all of this myriad of other things, instead of just coming down and saying, I was the cause of that. You know what I mean? And I regret that. I feel like he's trying to make some serious attempts to atone, but he feels like nobody's taking him seriously. And again, that's because you the practical joke type. You know what I mean? You know how have you ever been in a relationship, right? And a dude will have like an ex-girlfriend, and he'll move on and be with his new chick and be happy. And then his ex-girlfriend will come along and pretend like she wants to be with him, and she'll flirt with him, call him, even have sex with him, until it ends up coming in between his relationship with the new chick. And then he goes to be with her again because he ain't got no choice because he messed up his new relationship. And then she's like, ooh, like, I was just trolling. Like, I have no intentions on being with you. You know what I mean? He does that. I don't know if he's doing that to Ariane. There's a breakup here. I have the Two of Cups in reverse. This is in the current energy. But it gives me the impression of somebody going back and forth with somebody. But as a joke. I don't even know how else to say it. There's just no seriousness here. You know what I mean? Again, his attempts to be sorry and make things better, sometimes they get fallen on deaf ears. He does a lot of things that just are an attempt to cover his own ass. Instead of being genuinely having like remorse towards what he's doing for others. But at the same time, life is kind of showing him with this Fool card in reverse is that you wasted time. And again, it's a sense of looking around and realizing that all of your time and all of these games that you're playing have amounted to zip zeros, nothing, just wasted, irresponsible. All right, so that's the overall energy of this spread. Now let's go ahead and get into these cards. So we have, first of all, this Page of Swords in reverse, and I don't know if I've talked about this in the past, but the Page of Swords represents an adolescent child, and we have that clarified by the Three of Wands. So you know, I'm not reading for the kids, but I have to say that the Page of Swords in reverse it's almost like somebody gave a false report about a child or something a child said. Now, the first instinct I got before I clarify with the Three of Wands is that maybe he was interrogating his child, because the Page of Swords is about spying. Now, when the card is upright, the Page of Swords is the spy. But when the card is in reverse, it can mean that energy is happening to the character of the card. And so it gave me the impression that maybe he was interrogating the kids or asking the kids questions about something. But if he did, in the end, he ended up giving some type of false report or something like that. And the Five of Cups is in his crowning energy. That means that he regrets that to the fullest extent of the words. Maybe there was a manipulation of communication. It may have started with him being curious, but then he ended up I don't know, it's almost like if you look for something, you're gonna find it, and what he found left him at a loss for words. But instead of him sticking to the truth of a situation, he went and fabricated and lied on and put it like in the kid's name or something like that. I feel like he was doing that as a tactic, but also I feel like he was also projecting maybe some feelings that he had from his own childhood and confusing that with his children's childhood, not realizing that they're on a different journey per se. They have a different set of exposure to things, and things that they may think or feel or go through in life are not interpreted or have the same, thing that he had with his. But because it's like his childhood, the Empress card is here. I think that represents a child's mother, but it also represents his own mother. And again, I just feel like there's something there that he just cannot contend with or cannot, deal with. And he ends up putting that on to his own kids in a way, if that makes any sense. But I show that he's disappointed. I show that he's disappointed in himself for how he, I just want to say that he lied about, I feel like he lied on his kids. I know that sounds funny, but I just feel like that. And like I said, it could have been as a practical joke. I don't know if he was like starting rumors, but it's almost like he knew what he was doing, but he still regrets it and sees it as a stupid decision. I also show that he may be playing with one of the kids in like a, it's not an aggressive way. Oh my God, I don't want to go too deep. Okay, so I'm gonna say this, but then I'm gonna move off of the kids. I feel like he bullies one of the kids, and this kid is gonna be a preteen or teen. Page of Swords. It's borderline. It could be borderline considered abusive, but because it's put in the form of a joke or like playing, you know how you could play with somebody and you play fight, like, you know, okay, you know how you could play fight with somebody, right? And you, for instance, let me just use myself as an example. And again, I'm trying not to be personal, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like my life lived is for the life to be shared, right? I'm gonna say it like this: when my kids were coming up, when they started to get to their teens and they started to get their height on them and their weight on them, their dad would, when he would play basketball with them, he would be overly like doing too much. You know what I mean? Like swatting the ball too hard. You know, or if they brushed up against him, he would push them back hecka hard. But it felt like this like show of dominance or masculinity, but it was, what made it sad was that the kids were in a full open trust of the situation, but at the same time, because of his own defects and you know, or even maybe not even having, well, he had a father, I mean, you know, so, but maybe not having a good relationship with his father, he was coming from a different place than what his own kids were coming from. It's like that, you know what I mean? So it's like I said, I don't want to use the word bullying or abuse, but it can come across as a type of abuse, but one that's not readily recognized, because it's like a fine line between abuse and playing. You know what I mean? But it's like I said, being overly aggressive during the game or something like that, or making overly smart or nasty comments or something like that. Yeah, it kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of triggers me a little bit, because I remember when my kids were going through that with their dad, that little rites of passage. I've seen snippets in social media. I don't think it's a unique thing. I think it's just like I said, a rites of passage with fathers and sons, but I hate to see it, because I hated to see it then, because I had to spend a lot of time rebuilding my kids for what he was taking out of them when they were trying to work on feeling their own selves, right? But again, he was, you know, had that same childishness or whatever. So in any event, when the Page of Swords is in reverse, this background thing that's going on at home can sometimes lead to them having problems with their schoolwork, or, you know, socializing in school, or, you know, staying focused and things like that. Because they have like a certain anxiety, you know, like there's a certain, I don't know, restlessness about them. Anyway, so I'm going to leave that right there, because like I said, I like to keep the readings confined to the show and the entertainment value of it all, but it's right in my face, and there's no way for me to do this spread around that. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. Yeah, in any event, like I said, there are some regrets. A lot of the regrets that are going on right now have to do with, like I said, the lying on the children, and also the slander of the mother of the children. Those are two things that are weighing heavy on Martell's mind, and things that he's not getting away from. And maybe because there's a lot of karma. I see the Wheel of Fortune here in reverse. The Magician here is in reverse. The Magician in reverse with this Three of Wands in reverse and the Fool card in reverse is telling me that he's having a hard time self-starting. And like I started in this reading, I was talking about Martell's issue with codependency, and how I've seen just over the spreads how he has to be tied to someone or something to be able to perform well. You know what I mean? Like, he's better as one half of a team, and he's not the only person like that. I'm the same way, but mine's is more so I'm better as the right hand to somebody. You know what I mean? Like a background advisor or comrade or consultant. That's just literally who I am. Everybody's not meant to be the star or the front runner, right? For him, he's just not meant to do it alone. Like there's like limited measures of success with him going as something alone. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing by like that, because the Three of Wands in reverse can represent like consolidating forces, and I feel like that's just him. You know what I mean? His goal in life is not to learn how to be self-sufficient, but to find the right person to do it with. You know what I mean? That's literally the objective. Like, I don't want to do it by myself. And because he can't find the right person to do it with, even with Ariane, this Two of Cups is in reverse. I find that there's an element of their personalities that is harmonious, but he doesn't see her as the right person to do it with. Even though they could have like a friendship, because the Two of Cups, it's still about a friendship regardless. And it's about a friendship that heals you, that's there for you. But when it's reversed, there's a basic incompatibility, period. Right? The Empress card is here in the background energy with the Ace of Swords. So this represents lies, right? And slander. But I feel like maybe on the part of the child's mother, there's a fear of speaking up for themselves in any way that's kind of like cemented, just because of criticism and being able to call certain things out. The Ace of Swords in reverse can also represent things like neurodivergence, like ADHD. And that can also hinder communication. You know, when it came to Martell, maybe some of his inconsistencies or some of his emotional outbursts. Like, one thing about them is that they don't know how to emotionally regulate. And so because there's so much shame and stigma behind things like ADHD or neurodivergence, and they look normal, right? They look good. They perform well. You don't necessarily know that that's what you're dealing with. So when they're doing things that are shocking to you or surprising to you or irrational to you or have no method or rhyme or reason or trace to it, it scares you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what you're dealing with. And instead of you having patience, you end up trying to defend yourself, right? I feel like with this, things are getting clear now. Let me put it that way. With the Ace of Swords in reverse, whatever lies and slander was going on, that's getting clear now. I feel like there was a specific time around some type of surgery with the Ace of Swords where he thinks about the level of nurturing that came from a child's mother, and there's a part of him that wishes he would get into like a minor accident or become hurt in some type of way so he can feel that level of nurturing again. It's sad, but some men are dramatic like that. Like they would take a hurt if it could mean that they could get back close. You know, there's a lot of regret here with this Five of Cups, and like I said, I feel like the Five of Cups regret is about backstabbing and telling lies on the mother of your child, and really prioritizing what people thought of him more than anything. So yeah, there was a lot of backstabbing, like I said, speaking with a forked tongue, saying one thing and then saying another thing, like, get it straight, like, which one is it? But his goal was to kind of like leave a bad taste in people's mouths, and a lot of what he was saying was being regurgitated from other people around him and their opinions, and so he played into that as well, you know, to create a confirmation bias with maybe like the enemies or the others. But in his mind, he's taking all of this as a joke, or he's being really immature about it. And now it seems like with that Five of Cups and regret, it's catching up to him. I think the reason why it might be catching up to him is because of this Six of Swords. He sees how his movement may have been limited because everywhere he goes, he's carrying this baggage. You know what I mean? The baggage of his reputation, the baggage of the way that he conducted himself. It's all following with him. You know what I mean? Everywhere. Every time he tries to move away from things that maybe he's done and get peace of mind and calm shit down, he's reminded of how he played his cards, is the best way for me to put it. It's no getting around it. And like I said, there is a sense of wanting to atone with that Fool card in reverse and that Five of Cups regret card. There's a sense of him wanting to recuperate the spilled milk, if you will, but also, you know, not knowing that right now the focus needs to be on the future. Like, it's little to nothing that you could do. He could still atone with his kids, though, because at the end of the day, he did fabricate or exaggerate or lie on his kids, and or created a false report, because the Page of Swords can be about a report. And for me, the kids could have suffered some type of punishment or consequence, or even backlash sometimes from the other parent based on those lies. And it may have been something that they didn't even do. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, right now, I just feel like Martell can't get anything off the ground. You know, he's overwhelmed by the slightest of things, always biting off more than he can chew, and really daydreaming more than being able to actually put things together. You know what I mean? Mishaps all over the place. And again, like I said, I think that they may have a little bit to do with karma. It's a part of day-to-day life. So I'm getting out of the mode of resigning everything to karma. Some stuff is just living. You know what I mean? It's just living. But this really looks like universal backlash. You know what I mean? I feel like he's tied up with a lot of paperwork, contracts, emails, a lot of documents. Like I said, lying on documents. Be careful with that. Especially with that Two of Pentacles in reverse and the Magician with the Ace of Swords. This to me is just giving that he's lying on documents about the child's mother pertaining to the kids or something like that. And I don't know if it's going to be figured out because of the contradicting things that he's saying. Like I said, not even really a good liar that much. I feel like somebody's telling him, like, you need to learn how to read or hire somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say like he don't know how to read, but it's almost like you don't know how to read. Maybe, and like I said, there is that there with the Ace of Swords can sometimes represent like ADHD, just like the Page of Pentacles can represent autism. So there could be some, you know, neurodivergence, learning disability, or something that causes people to issue more patients who know about it, but other people, you know, to lash out, or him to lash out. Like I said, no emotional regulation and sporadic shit. It looks like his financial problems be getting out of hand sometimes. You know what I mean? I think that he feels that the things that people are mad at him about are frivolous. Like I said, because he doesn't take himself serious, he doesn't recognize the serious implications of his actions, and he feels sometimes that other people around him are overreacting. But he's not realizing, because the Nine of Swords is in his external energy, and this is giving me a vibe of like somebody who doesn't realize how their actions affect people. You know what I mean? Like, you cause people a lot of stress, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of mental anguish. People then woke up in hot flashes and cold sweats behind the way that you've made them feel. And then you're just like, get over it. What is the big deal? You know, you don't see it that way because you don't emotionally connect. Like, you know, because you know, you're disconnected until you want to come up with some type of emotional outburst that's still disconnected from real emotion, but that you use to lash out and control people or something. I also see that Martell is considering writing some type of book or a manuscript or life story or something like that. Or there's something that he's gearing up to be able to promote, or I don't know. I see some type of like promotions. But this is promotion of like a product. Like I said, with the Page of Swords and the Two of Pentacles, this usually represents some type of paperwork. I don't know, for some reason it's giving me like a manuscript or some type of book. But again, I feel like it more so has to do with contracts, or this could be him writing a book with a bunch of lies in it. Could be something like that too. He has the Magician in reverse. This is somebody thinking they know everything. And it's almost funny because the spread, it says that you need more help than, I don't know, you need help. But this is him needing help, but wanting to feel like he's the know-it-all at the same time. You know what I mean? I also feel like, again, he's so, it's like he's disconnected from himself, because there's a part of him, like I said, that doesn't feel like he has a lot of responsibility in his situation. Like he's disconnected from the things that he does. It's crazy with this Magician card in reverse. This could also mean him talking too much but lacking the depth. You know what I mean? Or like somebody that's talking too much, but when you challenged, or when somebody like really kind of like pushes back at what's coming out your mouth, you don't have the range. You know what I mean? And whatever power you do have or did get, instead of you using that to be constructive, you use that to be destructive. This is not about being evil though. This is about being destructive with your energy or power that you do have. You know what I mean? And this is about also trying to develop personal power that is authentic. But again, you're using that to be destructive. And like I said, this is lying on some documents, or, you know, just because you have the power to do so. At the heart of it though, I'm showing that it's really just about him not being able to do it by himself. Like he's inadequate. And I feel like he needs to learn how to think things out. But again, if it is true that he suffers with some type of ADHD and maybe didn't get the help or doesn't have the help, it's hard. You know, like he toggles between being overconfident and underconfident, or starting things but not really finishing them, or taking a while to finish them. But presenting an image that's different than what it really is. And I hate to say it, but shape-shifting, if you will. It's like his tool of deception, or his way of deceiving people, is his actual self person. You know what I mean? Like his actual front or presentation is deceptive in and of itself. In either direction, you know what I mean? For better or for worse. But at the end of the day, it's about being manipulative and using the appearance of confidence in order to get what you want out of other people. But at the end of the day, you're almost like a liar. You know what I mean? In the minorest of ways. And again, like I said, this line could have extended to your kids and your family. And you regret that shit. You regret that shit. I feel like he tried to have a stab at doing things by himself, but he got too lonely and he got tired real quick. He didn't have, like I said, the range, what do they call it, perseverance. Yeah, he wasn't able to persevere, you know. And listen, getting shit off the ground, I'm gonna be the first one to tell you, it take a lot of stops and starts and finding your niche. And you know, if you ain't got no money, you got to wait for that. It's a lot involved in it, but if you believe in it, and if it's something that you truly want to do, you got to persevere. If for nothing else, the love of it. I love what I do. That's why I persevere at it. That's why I invest in it. I do it when no one's looking. I do it when no one's paying, because I love it, right? Two of Cups is here in reverse. This is how he's coming in now. Like I said, this is a relationship that he's no longer passionate about. And, you know, like I said, a lot of quarreling with a friend or somebody that was a friend, but not really understanding that the relationship is actually considered to be a failure because the passion is empty. And like I said in the past, I think the passion was just built around bonding over the ex-wife in the first place. And so when that's no longer an issue or a need to bond, then what are you guys left with? You know what I mean? What are you left with? The Two of Swords can also represent somebody having an affair or sneaking around on somebody. The World card is here in reverse. If I had to guess, I would say it was with a stripper. However, I have to be honest, I don't see a whole lot of relationship energy in this card. Other than this Nine of Swords, like I said, somebody is sleeping up at night, you stressing somebody out. And they could be stressed out because they found out about you and this stripper. There's a stripper here. Okay? There's a stripper here. But I'm seeing some, miscommunications. And like I said, a bunch of quarreling, a bunch of arguing. And this relationship looks one-sided. One person is in love with somebody. The other person is not in love. And they feel like, I don't know if he feels like maybe Ariane dragged him into the mud, or she feels like he drug her into the mud. That may be her reason for holding on. You know what I mean? It's like somebody sticking you with some type of disease and you like, damn, like, where else I'm going to go? I may as well be with you. But at the same time, this Nine of Swords tells me that maybe she's obsessed with him because this is in the external energy. The Two of Cups in reverse can represent an obsession over a person. And with this Nine of Swords, even though that obsession is stressed out and full of all kind of, anguish, it's still based on you being obsessed. Again, cord cutting. I recommend cord cutting when you're in the thick of a relationship with somebody, because I believe as a woman, you should maintain a level of objectivity when dealing in your relationship long term, especially with a man. Like, it's good to be romantic, but your romance should be intentional. It should be a decision. It shouldn't be based on any lovesick puppy dynamic. You know what I mean? You have to always remain objective, and as much as it hurts, sometimes you just got to cut things off. But that requires you having a business mind about your emotions, in that you keep them organized, you run them like data, you keep track of them, you associate, you remember certain behaviors and things. All of that helps you to keep objectivity as you learn to love the person that you're with, because it takes a long time to really learn to love somebody. Yeah. I feel like Martell also is having a hard time balancing his masculine and feminine energies. There's a lot of feminine energy here as far as it's expressed, when those emotional outbursts happens. But then again, wanting the portrayal and respect of a man, which requires you to emotionally regulate, be level-headed, use your logic. Even though I personally feel those are feminine traits, we ain't gonna go down that aisle. I don't know. They just always want to task women with being so emotional. And listen, it's just my experience that men are very emotional and that women are just absorbing that. As a woman, I'm perfectly stable and fine without you. So what did that tell me? That tells me that I didn't took your crusty spirit on. I feel like, again, this World card in reverse, this can represent like a sense of emptiness. In the hopes and fears, it means that whatever he thought was coming, whether it's a contract, like I said, there's a contract here as well with the Two of Pentacles, it may not be exactly what he thought it would be, or he thought he was maybe getting a promotion or some type of bonus. Maybe there's a delay there. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not coming, but it might not be there on time or when he wants it to be. Like I said, stagnant. I feel like he feels boxed in by his obligations. Yeah. So, and that coupled with the outcome of the final outcome of the reading, meaning being the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. I feel like this has to do with maybe some type of gambling. I feel like this position next to the Pentacles represents some type of gambling, or and a loss gambling, or it's too unpredictable to invest, or something. It's something with some money and gambling some money. I also feel like his ups and downs, he's psychologically up and down maybe. And there's things that he's, like I said, there's a contract he's expecting or some type of change or promotion he's expecting, but there's a delay and he's annoyed by that. And those annoyances may turn into, like I said, outbursts or something like that. he feels like he's going over and over and over and covering the same ground, but covering the same ground is also revealing lies and inconsistencies in your stories on some paperwork. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's all I got. I think I'm gonna end it here. We're at about 30 something minutes. I'll be trying to, if it was my way, these readings would be 15 minutes. But I just feel like if I'm gonna open up the cards, then I should respect it. You know what I mean? I don't think I should do rush jobs when it comes to tarot. So I do thank you guys for the investment of your time. I really do. But anyways, listen, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of this reading. I don't know what's going on. Didn't watch the show last season, so I'm jumping right in. But you know what I always say, my cards don't lie. Okay? Give it 3 to 6 months. You're going to find out. But anyways, always wishing for the best in all parties. Tarot is meant to show you your blind spots, offer ways for improvement. Nobody seeks the tarot when things are going well. We always are looking to diagnose psychological, physical, upsets. That's what it's for, right? To help you on your growth. So go ahead and like this video for me. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have your notification bells on. And listen, y'all already know I want y'all to go visit my Etsy store. It is so cute, right? I put in all that effort. And listen, I just want to be seen. So go check me out, okay? And let me know how cute you think it is, because I know you think it's cute because it's cute. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.